bigger barns. One day, long ago, Jethro stood outside his house, taking in the view of his farmlands. He had a lot of work to do and lots to get ready.
If only the crops would plant and harvest themselves,
he chuckled to himself.
Good morning,
someone shouted. Jethro turned to see his friend Zachariah walking up toward him.
Good morning, Zachariah,
greeted Jethro.
That's some great land you have there, said
Zachariah.
Thank you, but I was just wondering if it would cultivate itself if I stared at it long enough.
The two men laughed. The daily toil had got to them both.
Well, you probably aren't going to believe what I'm about to tell you then. I heard that there is this place that many have already gone to. They say that they never have to work, no bills to pay, and everyone has their own place. Sure, where did you hear about that nonsense?
Chuckled Jethro.
I told you wouldn't believe me,
said Zachariah.
But it's true. A few of my neighbors have already left. They never came back, so it must be true.
Jethro thought about what Zachariah said for a few moments. A place without work or bills sounded great, but did it really exist?
So, how would I get to a place like this?
Asked Jethro cautiously.
From what I hear, all you need to do is tell others about the place. Be ready to leave at any moment, and you'll be collected,
replied Zach excitedly.
Collected? How?
Asked Jethro.
Well, I've no idea because I'm still here, but my neighbor Gary told me about this place, and I went by it this morning, and he wasn't there, so he's obviously been collected already. Isn't it exciting?
Zachariah beamed. He had truly bought into this fantasy, but Jethro wasn't so sure.
Well, thank you for letting me know, Zachariah. Oh, of course, I couldn't keep it in anymore. Now, don't forget, be ready. They could come any day. Be ready,
said Jethro.
So should I pack? No, just keep an eye out. You don't need to pack anything. They have everything you'll need. Gary's place is just as he had left it.
Zachariah waved hastily and was off before Jethro could ask anything else. Jethro turned back to his house and stared again at the land waiting to be planted. This place of no work sounded really great, but Jethro knew better. He had to make his own way in this world. He could trust only himself, and not the thought of some stranger in a strange place who would be willing to rid him of his daily toil at no cost at all. It couldn't be possible. 2 weeks later, the planting was done. The fields looked beautiful, and just in time for the rains. Had Jethro not started working on the fields when he did, he would have been late for the whole season and would miss the rains that were needed. Locking his door, Jethro headed toward the town. He had been so busy in the fields, he had not had the time to restock his own cupboards. Just as he was leaving the milk stall, he heard 2 women talking quite excitedly.
John walked by the house, and no one has seen Zachariah at all since then. No one in or out. Do you think he is ill, perhaps? Maybe in bed? No. My John spoke to someone who peeked in the windows to be sure, and he says that everything is covered in dust. It's as though he just vanished.
Jethro gasped, nearly dropping his basket.
Jacob told me,
continued the other woman standing nearby,
that Zachariah told him that there was a place where people didn't work, and there was a place for everyone. I didn't believe it, but perhaps it's true. Where else could he have gone?
Jethro stepped back from the conversation as the 2 ladies continued talking. He recalled his last conversation with Zachariah. Could it be true? Jethro's heart pounded. What was it that Zachariah had said? Jethro had to tell others of this place and then wait to be collected. Jethro spoke to every person he passed along the streets on his way back home. He had to make sure that he told as many as he could, so that he too could leave his life of hard labor and head to the magnificent place that Zack had told him about. Jethro looked out the windows and ran to the door every time he heard a cart or horses passing by. Every time he saw someone passing his house, he told them what Zachariah had told him. He was determined to spread the word. After a few weeks, Jethro stopped running to his windows. He spoke to no one and kept to himself. His crops were harvested, and he was still there. No one had come to collect him. Perhaps the stories weren't true. Maybe Zack had gone to visit his family instead. Jethro watched and waited, but nothing happened, and he finally grew tired of waiting and watching and speaking to people about this place that he wasn't sure even existed himself. Over the next few months, he determined to make his own toil-free living. He bought more land, planted more crops, and as they began to spring up, he said,
"See now, I make my own fortune."
Jethro looked at his barn, and seeing that his crops had tripled, he said,
"I'll not have enough space for all of this. I know. I will build bigger barns, more space to store more food."
And so he tore down the old barn, and for weeks he worked from sun up to sundown, not stopping to rest, until he had built his enormous barn, where he could store up his crops. Said Jethro proudly.
"Now I have so much that I will never need to work again. I can store up everything I have in these barns. I can go and meet with others. I can spend my money and never have to worry that I will not have enough. I will be the richest man in the village, and I will sit back with my feet up and have nothing to do. I can now take life easy."
Jethro, too tired for even a meal, lay down in his bed and fell asleep.
"Jethro! Jethro! Jethro!"
Jethro woke with a fright. He went to the window. It was Zachariah.
"It's time to go. We've come for you."
Jethro, half asleep, was confused. Zachariah pulled him into the carriage.
Wait. What's happening?"
he asked.
"It's time, Jethro. We're leaving to the place where no one works, and a place has been made for you."
Before he knew it, the carriage was off, filled with men and women who laughed excitedly. Jethro thought of his full barn and all the work he had done over the past few months.
"Good thing I told you about this place,"
said Zachariah.
"or you would have wasted all your time and efforts in making this your home, when the place we're off to is much better than you could ever imagine." "Good thing,"
said Jethro. If only he had waited, and not wasted his time storing up crops for a life that he was never destined to live there.